Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Podiatry Business Podcast with myself, Lorcan, podiatrist and podiatry business mentor, etc. So the title of today's podcast is "The Future Can Be Bright." Now, if I'm honest, I could have called this any number of things, from you can make more money from your clinic to how to be more profitable, etc., etc. You'll get the gist when you listen to the podcast here. But the reason I'm doing this and it's slightly different today is in the last kind of week, I have had two podiatrists reach out to me, both of whom are about to start their own bricks and mortar, so physical location clinic. They're both working part-time in the NHS, both doing some domiciliary work, which is fine, and want to, and it's going well, and they want to open their own clinic, be their own boss, and develop their own clinic, which is great. And they came to me looking for some help, and I'll always help. I'll always give some advice, no problem at all. But we'll only work with people that we think A, we know we can help them, and B, we know that they're the right fit for us, because we don't want to be taking people on that we know we're not going to be able to help or they can't afford us. So I want to do something for those who are starting off and don't have any money, basically, when they start off, because I know what that's like. And how do you start your business? How do you grow your business when I don't have any money to invest in somebody helping me, or in paid ads, or in getting a website, and so on? So what I want to do is I want to do something practical, and that's what this podcast is. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to play an interview I did a while back with one of my clients. So this client is called Abid Ali. Abid is a podiatrist based in Coventry, England. Now, I could have used any of the interviews I have, but I used Abid because Abid likes to talk and he's a good man to chat. Now, you'll notice that in the interview with Abid, he talks about having gone through exactly that process, from leaving the NHS, opening his own clinic, and not having any money when he started off, and how it was 7 or 8 years later he reached out to me. Now, Abid's done great since we've started working with him, but the point I want to make is that, he could have done that a lot earlier if he had gotten help. It may not have been me, it could have been someone else. I remember when I first started my clinic, it was 12 years later before I actually reached out to someone and said, can you help me? And I look back on those 12 years as not quite wasted, but an opportunity missed. That if I had done so much earlier, or if I had approached my business as a business, not just as a clinic, much earlier, I could have had a much better, quality of life for me and for my family. So that's what I want you guys to avoid. Now, where you are in your business, whether you're just about to open, or you're open a while, or maybe you're at it a good while and you're just not doing what you want to do, it's never too late or never too early to make some changes. And if you don't have any money to make any changes, you can still do something about it. And I'm going to show you stuff, pretty much everything I talk about here, other than paid ads and maybe building your website, isn't going to cost you any money at all and can make a significant difference to your business. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll go over to Abid's interview. We'll let that run, and then I'll come back and I'll meet you guys here at the end of that. Okay, so Abid, thanks for joining me. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Abid Ali. I am a podiatrist / other things, sports therapist, etc. I've been a podiatrist for nearly more than 20 years. I worked 17 years in the NHS in musculoskeletal services and orthopedics, and then few years, 7, 8 years ago now, I decided that I had a little bit more to offer, a little bit more to give. I wasn't satisfied with the way the NHS was seeing and treating patients. So I decided to start a little business, started on a shoestring budget. I had 1,200 quid to my name. I bought a plinth, bought a table and a laptop, and I had enough rent for 2 months. I didn't know what was going to happen after that. And now fast forward 8 years later, we've got ourselves a nice building. We've just put up an extension, and we've taken on 2 staff last year, thanks to more practice profits, actually, and hoping to grow a little bit more. And the ultimate aim is to retire myself at some point from clinical duties and have a business to run.
Okay. What is the name of your clinic?
It's Biomechanics Clinic / more lately, Coventry Foot Doctor.
Why did you join Podiatry Patients on tap or marketing service?
So I felt, having worked in the NHS for as long as I did, I was really desensitized to money. So one of the first problems I had when I started seeing private patients was actually charging them. Look, done the treatment, so do you mind giving them a few quid for it? I found that difficult. And then I did, realizing my weaknesses, I did a few courses. So I did some training on marketing, sales, various bits and bobs. And then I joined a university-based program called Help to Grow, which is a kind of government-led thing. And I went through that for 6 or 7 months. And at the end of it, I felt it was not specific enough to my industry. And I felt I still needed help and mentorship because I just couldn't see the way forward. Obviously, I was busy in clinic, back to back, 7 days a week, and then doing all the other jobs. You're not just the clinician, you're the cleaner, you're the admin. So I was doing all these roles with great difficulty, and I just didn't have the brain space really to see what the future could be and how it could look like. So I reached out, had a look at a few mentorship potential opportunities, feeling that somebody specific to my industry would be more helpful. They've been through it, they've seen it, done it, got the t-shirt, and could give me more of a roadmap to help me to not be a clinician anymore, but turn into a business owner. Hence, I found Lorcan and More Practice Profits.
What was your biggest problem with your marketing prior to this?
Effectively, there was no marketing, I suppose. It was all done through word of mouth and friends and referrals and chasing GPs and consultants, see if I could get referrals from them. That was really arduous and hard going. So I tried a couple of simple things, do leaflets. In actual fact, I hired a marketing expert at one point. I paid her a good bunch of money for a year. And she did some newspaper ads and some magazine ads and a bit of leafleting here and there. Then I went to a few conferences and got a whole load of absolutely nothing for all the effort and the time I put into it. So that's again why I came to More Practice Profits then, because they had this whole package that was quite tempting. Obviously, I was nervous about the initial outlay and cost and trying to figure out, would that just be a bottomless pit? Would I actually get anything back out of it? And then, of course, I wasn't really thinking about things like ROI, return on investment. I wasn't thinking about profitability. I wasn't thinking about any of these things, systemization and all these other things that I thought I had in place, but I didn't. And that didn't really come to light until I joined the group and heard what other people were going through. And of course, the wealth of experience that Lorcan's had, having been through a lot of the similar problems that I was having.
And specifically when it comes to your marketing, how are things different now?
I suppose we have a system, we have a process. It's a constant ongoing thing in the background rather than just a one-off ad hoc, chuck this out there and see what happens. We have a much more structured program, and it's effective. It's gaining traction and interest, and we're regularly booking patients from all the marketing we do, day to day, week to week.
Okay, and in terms of percentage or changing your hours or whatever, have you seen any major changes in your business?
I remember one of the first things you said at the beginning of it all was, we'll help you to double your profits in 12 months. And we've certainly done that. Having looked at the numbers a month ago, we've definitely doubled the profits. So yeah, it works. It works.
Okay, what is the best thing about it being a client of ours?
Sometimes when you're trying to move ahead, you come up with a little problem. It's not anything major, but it takes time to think about it, and you need a bit of brain space for it. Nowadays, I don't bother to dwell on anything. As soon as I get an issue or a problem that I can't resolve or I need some advice and help with, I just bring it straight to the group. Either Lorcan yourself manages to answer it, or it goes out to the wider group. So there's always an answer. It's quick, it's fast, it's effective. I get the information I need there and then. Then we don't dwell and delay. We put it into action. Things just work way better. So I don't have any concerns anymore. For sure, if I hadn't joined the group, I don't think I'd have been confident enough to take on extra staff. I didn't really know the process to it. I didn't know the systems. I didn't know what I should have in the background. So that gave me loads of confidence last year to take on 2 extra full-time staff, which is a huge move for myself, considering I was going from a single lone practitioner to becoming an employer.
Okay. Would you recommend other podiatry clinic owners watching this consider joining our service?
Oh yeah, massively, without doubt, without doubt. I've got so much out of it, and having these regular meetings, we do that a couple of times a week, and then I can directly access marketing support. I can directly access admin support. I can directly access clinical support. So there isn't really a question that comes up anymore that I haven't got knowledge or answers to. So it's a must, really. I think for anyone trying to build a practice and move forward, anybody who just thinks that it's hard to see the future when you're just in the thick of it constantly. So it will help you to clarify in your own mind, and also there's the whole thing starts off with mindset thing. You really got to get your mindset into the right gear, and then you've got to look forward and look at the vision of where you want to be. And it's so helpful to have other clinicians that are going through what you're going through to help you to do that. And then, of course, it's the systemizing and processing bit that you maybe think you've got in place, but you maybe haven't. Once all that sort of background architecture is built in, it's a lot easier to progress and move things on. So for sure, 100% must for anyone who's trying to build a practice. You need mentorship, you need support, and you need that knowledge and framework. I mean, with the Lorcan group, we have a whole database of training and courses, and information is readily at your fingertips constantly, so you can make fast, accurate decisions. And it's a very dynamic world now. It's moving at 100 miles an hour. There's problems with the patient demands, and there's increasing healthcare issues out there. There's more and more complexity to patients coming into practice and clinic. So I have a lot of confidence that we can deal with all these challenges, and of course the changing face of the economic situation, National Health Service situation. There's so many obstacles and hurdles that just become an absolute mountain, and you can't always see the way over it by yourself. So to have that support, backup, and mentorship on tap is priceless.
Okay, so that was Abid there. Great interview. I always like talking to Abid. He's a great man for a chat, and he does stuff. You tell him what to do and he just implements it. So listening to his story kind of shows you the typical path that I hear, especially UK based podiatrists making when they come to me, and the difference that implementing some basic marketing, some basic business principles, nothing too complicated, can make and can change your business. Now, what Abid doesn't mention in that interview is when he came to me first, he was working 6 days a week, and at the time of the interview he was down to 4. And since we did that interview, we've done that a while ago, he is dropping further and he's taking on more staff, and he's getting an even bigger business. And he's doing other services other than podiatry within the clinic. I won't get into that too much. So what do you do? So where do you start? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen, and I'm going to draw, and I'm going to talk about where you start and how you go about making some changes to your business. So because what Abid talked about there was a path or a journey, a roadmap almost, that you'd have for your business. Now, if you want to see the roadmap that we use, just go to More Practice Profits, and you'll see the top of the navigation bar roadmap. Click on that, and it shows you the loose journey that we take our clients from top left across, and what we think they should do. Now, in most cases we'll change it slightly, but it gives you an idea of, well, what should I tackle next? Because what you don't want to do is have 50 million things to do and then you become overwhelmed as a result of that. So what we want to be doing, okay, is we want to basically start at the bottom, okay? And the first thing you must be, and I'm going to put this even outside of, is you must be good clinically. Now, if you're not good clinically and you don't have a nice personality, there's not a lot I can do for you on that. This is not what I'm here for, but you need to make sure that your product or your service is good. So that means good customer service, that you're a polite person. It's actually not unusual that we come across people who are not very polite or are not very good at being a podiatrist. So you got to be good clinically. Let's assume that you've done that, okay? So what we want at that point then is next thing you should work on is you should work on your mindset or your business mindset. So what we tend to do is as clinicians, spend a lot of time working on getting really good clinically. So we put a lot of time, a lot of effort, we'll invest in getting good clinically, as we should, and that was the first thing I said, okay? But our mindset is that is okay. Well, what you need to do first is start to think about what is I'm trying to achieve, and that I am in business, and that if my business doesn't deliver for me the lifestyle and profits that I want, well then, what am I doing it for? Okay, so you need to put as much time and as much effort, in my opinion, into the CPD of running your business as you do into your clinical. Okay, because if you think you can just farm it out, then it will not work for you and you will not get the results. So start to have a different mindset that you are in business, that it's okay to be in business, that you are in business to make a profit. Because if you're not making a profit, then your business isn't going to last very long, and you're not going to be able to look after your clients, your patients, your staff, your suppliers, your own family, and yourself. So it is okay to run a business, and it is okay to make that profitable. The second thing you want to make sure you're doing is that you have a really good pricing strategy. Okay? And typically what we see is that podiatrists are consistently undercharging compared to what they should be charging. So when it comes to pricing, what typically will happen is somebody will start a business, they'll look at what everyone else is charging, and they'll charge somewhere in between. They don't want to be the cheapest, but they don't want to be the most expensive. And as a result of that, because they're not bringing enough money and they don't really know what they're doing and they don't know the numbers, there's not enough money left at the end of the month to make it worth their while. So in a lot of cases, you could be charging a lot less you're charging a lot less for the healthcare you're providing and a good quality service than maybe that same person is paying for their dinner or to get their hair cut and so on. So typically you're charging too little and your pricing should be higher. Now, I have dealt with this in other podcasts on how you can figure this out and how you can go back and almost reverse engineer what your pricing is. And essentially what it is you're working out how much do I need to make profit wise, what's my break even point, how many patients am I going to see, divide them by each other, and you end up with, well, this is what's left over. This is where my pricing therefore should be to change that. Which brings me to the next component, and that is the 5 times multiplier. So the 5 times multiplier is basically the 5 keys that you can pull, or levers you can pull in your business that will make a difference to the bottom line. And those 5 are: 1, the number of leads that you get. Okay. Number 2 is the conversion of those leads into number of patients. Number 3 is the average amount that they spend per appointment. Number 4 is the average number of appointments that somebody has. And number 5 is your profit as a percentage. They're the 5 things that you can change. Now, I've dealt with this in other podcasts, and if you want to go to my website, morepracticeprofits.com, you'll see on the navigation under resources, you'll actually see a calculator where you can go in and change these numbers individually and see how much of a difference it makes to your bottom line. But if you don't know what is going and what numbers are going in where and what need to change, then you're not going to make a difference to your business. A very simple example of this is you get a patient that comes in and you're charging more than you were previously. Let's say you charge a 5 or more, and instead of that patient coming in maybe 3 times over the next year, they might come in 4 times. So what you're doing is you're getting them to pay a 5 or more each time, but they're coming in that extra time. So that makes a big difference overall when you multiply that over tens and hundreds and maybe even thousands of patients to your bottom line. And your costs are no higher, but your turnover is higher, and therefore your profits are going to be higher. Which brings me to the next part, which is you need to know your numbers. Now, if I said to you there was just one number you should know, the top number should always be your profit and loss. And you should know that on a monthly basis. Because if you don't know what it's costing you to run your business on a monthly basis, you're not going to be able to make changes to your business to keep the costs as low as you should have them and the profits as high as you should have them. If you wait and only do this once a year and have your accountant send it to you and you don't really understand it, it's way too late, because you can't change what's going to happen. So, for example, I'm in Ireland and your tax bill is due in October. So in October 2025, you'll do your tax bill for 2024. So typically what will happen is a business owner will find out in September 2025 what happened in January 2024. We're way too late. You need to know in September 2025 what happened in August 2025. Therefore, you can go in and make changes to your business. So you got to know your P&L. So you can see so far, none of this has cost us any money. We're just sitting down and we're thinking like a business person. And these are the things that Abid has implemented into his business to give the changes you saw him talk about. Okay, now this is the next bit, and that is marketing. So nobody is going to know how good you are unless you tell them. And that's marketing. So if you have all of these fundamentals in place, you then put on top of that marketing. Whereas typically what will happen is people will come to me, clinic owners will come to me and say, I just need more marketing. But actually we probably need to do their fundamentals first. So I have a client right now we're dealing with, the time of recording this, who came to me and wanted me to do the marketing. No problem, we'll do the marketing, but I'm not going to do it until I have these fundamentals in place. So we're charging them less. I actually said, no, I'm not giving you that thing over there. That's going to cost you more. I'm just going to do this first because these fundamentals need to be in place. Otherwise, we're going to end up with lots of leaks in your business. So you have to consider marketing. And you heard Abid talk about where he didn't really have any marketing in place before he came to us. Now, you're probably thinking, well, marketing is going to cost me money. Well, not necessarily. So these two people I spoke to in the last week, they don't have any money to spend on Facebook ads or Google ads. So what would you do? So the first thing you need to have is you need to have a website for definite, but you need to have a website that basically uses direct response marketing. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go and get a free copy of my book, Podiatry Patients on Tap, and it explains this in simple language. It shows you what to do. Now, if you don't have a whole lot of money to spend, you can get a website on Wix.com. Now, it isn't the best practice, but if you don't have the money, it's cheap as chips and it's a great way to start. So get yourself a website, use something like Wix.com, Squarespace, whatever. Don't spend a whole lot of money to begin with, okay? Later on, you can upgrade it to much better systems, etc. Then you make sure you're doing free marketing. So free marketing basically means marketing that you're not spending any money, that will still attract clients. So if I was suggesting you started with that, I would say to you, begin by making sure you have your website and you're doing a weekly blog, okay? And your weekly blog basically also gets reposted to your Google My Business, which you have claimed. It also gets posted to your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, that sort of stuff. All of this is free, not going to cost you a penny. What I'd also suggest you do is you send emails weekly to your database of patients that is useful and it's about the blog that you did. None of this costs you any money. And if you want more details, more fine detail on how you do all this, just go and have a look at my book, Podiatry Patients on Tap. You get that on podiatrypatientsontap.com, completely free. So that's free marketing. So far we've made substantial changes to our business, and we're going to make substantial changes to the side to our profitability without spending any money. Now you can add into that at that point, if you're going well, some paid ads. And what paid ads do is they basically are like putting petrol on a fire or gasoline on a fire for our American cousins, and they boost your business much faster. Do not start there. This is the last thing you do after you've done all of your other things. And you can get a lot more sophisticated, but this is plenty to begin with. So then we have staff. Now I'm going to put down staff and I'm going to put down a question mark, because I do understand that not everybody wants to take on staff. Not everybody wants to have a big business. You might be listening to this and think, well, Lorcan, I only want to work on my own. Cool. You don't need to take on any staff. I get it. Having staff is a pain in the ass. Okay, now I have staff, I get on really well with my staff, we do really well, but people are somewhat unpredictable, and that can be hard when you're trying to run a predictable business. So I get it, it's not for everyone. Now, likewise, I do see clinic owners coming along and saying, I don't want to have staff because they're a pain in the ass and I can't keep staff and I can't recruit staff. That comes down to maybe your systems, that you don't have an attractive enough offer. And then when you do manage to get people, you're not able to retain them because maybe you're not delivering what you said you were going to deliver. They're different things. But that's why I put staff in here as a question mark, because there's only so many hours in the day that you personally can treat patients, and you can only scale to a certain point without staff. So if you want to scale beyond a certain point, and you know, do your numbers to figure out, well, then staff are have to become involved in this. So you can see none of this, other than paid marketing and paying staff, is going to cost you more money to make a change to your business. And the last thing you need to make sure you do is you enjoy it. So you've got to enjoy the journey, because it is a journey. It's not a destination. It's a constant journey. And what I would also say to you is have a think about, and Abid touched on this at the start about mindset and about goals and so on. If you don't have a destination, how do you know what you're trying to get to? But likewise, know when enough is enough, because research tells us, and we know this ourselves, after a certain amount of profit, more profit won't make you any happier, and is no good making more money if you're still miserable. So enjoy the journey and know when you've enough and be happy with that. Because typically what I see is clinic owners that I speak to, they're not coming to me looking to become multimillionaires. They're looking to build a better life and a better financial position for themselves. And that's what those two clinic owners who spoke to me in the last 2 weeks, they were in that position. They're not looking to become multimillionaires. They're looking to just have a better lifestyle, more freedom, and more financial freedom for themselves. So I hope this helps. If you want more information, if you want more help, then basically go to morepracticeprofits.com and download a free copy of my business book, Podiatry Business Success Secrets. And that goes through the business section and everything in there. If you want more help on the marketing, go to Podiatry Patients on Tap and download a copy of that book. And that is all marketing. And again, I'll go through everything in detail. They're both free. They're both available for you. So there's no excuses that you can't copy and do a lot of the stuff that you heard Abid do. The last thing that I have left out is get help. Get help. Now, it doesn't have to be necessarily with me. I get that. Okay, it might be that we're not the right fit for each other, etc., etc. But there's always places out there that you can get help. Here in Ireland, for example, the government give free business advice, free. And I know in the UK they have something similar, very cheap, etc. Maybe all you're going to do is start reading books, listen to more podcasts, but get help, because when you get help, it speeds the process up, and you don't have to spend 7 years slogging away like Abid did, or 12 years slogging away like I did. You can bypass that. So until next time, this is Lorcan, podiatrist, podiatry business mentor, signing out.